My name is Greg Ferris, and I'm president of the Forney ISD Board of Trustees, and I hereby call this Board of Trustees meeting to order. It is now 6 p.m., and I certify that a quorum is present and that the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required by law. Monthly meetings are open to the public. Although these are open to the public, comments and questions from the audience will be confined to the time designated for citizens to address the board. Again, thank you for attending tonight. At this time, we're going to take item 16 out of order, and the board will convene into closed session. It is now 6:01 p.m., and we will convene into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551-074 and 551-0821. No voting will take place in the closed session. All action the board takes will result in the discussions after we come out of closed session and take place after the board reconvenes back into open session. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to our Board of Trustees meeting this evening. It is February the 4th and we'll reconvene into our regular board meeting. We went into closed session earlier to address item number 16. At this time, we're going to take items 17, 18, and 19 out of order as a result of item 16. So moving on to item 17 of the agenda. Item 17, consideration of possible approval of professional contract personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074, personnel matters. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion the board approve professional contract personnel as discussed in closed session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's Regan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you. Moving on to item 18, consideration and possible approval of a contract renewal of administrators and other professional contract personnel pursuant to Texas Government Code 551074, personnel matters. As discussed in closed session, do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion we approve the contracts as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to number 19, considering possible action regarding the pending litigation, Student versus Forney Independent School District, Texas Education Agency docket number 072 SE 1118, pursuant to Texas Government Code 5510821, as discussed in closed session. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that the board authorize the superintendent to resolve the claims as stated in Student v. Forney Independent School District, Texas Education Agency docket number 072 SE 1118 pursuant to the terms discussed in closed session, and further authorize the superintendent to execute all documents related to such resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Andrews? Johnson? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And hear none. Thank you all for your patience with us and cooperation as we need to attend to those items. We do want to thank our special guest pianist tonight. It was Harold Jordan. He is the son of Heidi Gordon. Harold is a 4th grade student at Claiborne Elementary. He enjoys reading, art, camping, jeeping, archery, scouting, travel, history, music, theory studies, and biking. Thank you, Harold, for your music this evening and entertaining us. We appreciate you. Moving on to item 3A, we'd like to welcome this evening Robert Kennedy. He serves as senior pastor of Forney Mustang Creek Community Church. Robert is an ordained minister with the North Texas District Assemblies of God and serves as the district ministries director. He enjoys his role as husband to Judy, father to Stacy and Kaylee, and he's adored by his Great Dane, Charlie. This year, Mustang Creek adopted 2 campuses, Crosby and North Forney, and they offer support and services to the staff and students. They have graciously offered their church building for professional development locations, and they support our students through Fellowship of Christian Athletes programs. They provide breakfast for our principals and many other things. Thank you to Mustang Creek for being part of our Forney family. Would you come and lead us in our prayer this evening to start our meeting? We all rise for the invocation, please.
We want to thank the leadership for inviting us, and I like to tell people that we are in Forney because of a gracious partnership with the school system. A lot of people don't know that a dozen years ago, in 2006, we came to the city because of an affordable agreement where we rented a couple of your campuses, and we have been here ever since, and now we have 4 campuses, and it's all due to a partnership. So it's our honor to invite you guys in and host you with your athletes and so forth.
Thank you very much.
So God bless you guys, and thank you. Can we bow our heads and pray? Father, we love you. You are so rich in mercy and kindness. Lord, the word says that our children, when they are born to us, that they are like sharp arrows in the hands of warriors. And Father, we are grateful for the warriors of this school district that have that kind of influence on our kids and on our students, that they have the power to influence the trajectory of our kids. And Lord, I'm asking you for favor and for your anointing on our teachers to see with spiritual eyes what they cannot see with their natural eyes. God, our students face so much today. I ask that you would anoint our teachers to rescue and restore and challenge and elevate our children. Lord, that you would help them reach our kids' hearts so that they can teach their minds. Lord, I'm asking you that you would anoint our leadership, Father, that they would have the wisdom and ability to navigate troubled waters. Father, whatever they may be dealing with, Lord, I'm asking you, because your word in James says that if we lack the wisdom to handle something, that we could ask of you and you would give it to us. Father, I'm asking you for a blessing on the finances, that you would continue to replenish and restore the finances of our school system. Lord, that you would continue to help us as we grow. Lord, we're grateful. We're grateful for our city. We thank you that we have the privilege to live in Forney, Texas. And Father, as we continue to explode in growth, we're asking you for help on every campus, every elementary, every intermediate, and every high school. Father, I'm asking you that you would just command a blessing on our city. Your word says that you command your blessing upon unity, and I'm believing you, Lord, that as we continue to grow, that you would help us to have the wisdom to walk in unity and in peace. Bless our state. Bless our nation, God. We thank you for the privilege of living in America. Lord, today we ask that you would bless this meeting, and we thank you for it today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. We'll remember you and your team as you travel for your mission trip. Have a safe journey. This time, we're moving on to our pledges, and we are honored to have our Students of the Month with us. First, we'll have our Student of the Month from Forney High School, and Dr. Jonathan Campbell will introduce that person, and then followed by Jeff Hutchison, principal from Smith Elementary, who will introduce our Elementary Student of the Month. Dr. Campbell.
Thank you, Board. Dr. Terry, appreciate you letting us have this opportunity to present Kaylee Cross, amazing student at Forney High School. She's joined by her parents, Chris and Janet Cross, back here in the back, and then also her brothers, Caden and Jaden. I understand they kind of get along. And then we also have grandmother Rosemary Cannon back there too. So thank you all for being here. Kaylee is planning to either be a clinical psychologist or a physical therapist. But I think what's neat about that is that she is planning on helping people, and I think that's very special. She already has a full ride scholarship to McNeese State for playing softball, and she told me she is planning on going back to state and winning it again, right? I think that'll work. Kaylee credits her success to her natural physical gifts and thanks her family for keeping her grounded and motivated. Furthermore, she would like to credit some teachers along the way that have helped her to become the person she is today. And there are 6 teachers in particular. Her first grade teacher, Miss Simon, second grade teacher, Miss Vaughn, fourth grade teacher, Miss Sartan, I did okay. And then high school English teacher, Miss Allen, and then forensic science teacher and coach, Miss Byford, and then education and training teacher, Miss Miller. And some of her teachers had this to say about her. Miss Allen, the English teacher at Forney High, Callie is an amazing athlete and scholar. She is always kind and helps all of her classmates. And Miss Byford, her coach, so proud of this young lady. Kaylee is an incredible, talented young woman athletically and academically. It has been an honor to coach her and have her in class. She's going to do some amazing things after high school, and I'm excited to see her success in the future. Extremely proud of her accomplishments so far. Miss Garcia, her math teacher at Forney High. Callie is an amazing student, and every day her integrity is evident in her quality of work, her ability to balance school and extracurricular activities, and her willingness to help her fellow students. Many of her classmates look to her to explain it again so that they can understand. And she always has a great attitude and a super sweet personality. It's a blessing to have her as a student. So I present to you Callie Cross.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Terry. I'd like to introduce Ms. Sophia Simmons as our Student of the Month from Smith Elementary. So she's a 6th grade student, and she's a transplant here from her native Alabama. So this is her 2nd year with us here in Forney. So welcome to Forney. Sophia is the daughter of Scott and Christy. So they're sitting right here. So welcome here. At school, Sophia has participated in the Smith Choir and Drama Club, the All-City Choir, and she's in the GT program. She also maintains straight A's on her report cards. Outside of school, she is currently in her 4th year of piano lessons and on the 2nd year on the swim team. Her other hobbies include reading, writing stories, baking, and FaceTiming her friends on the weekends. She aspires to attend Auburn University and have a career in the performing arts, such as musical theater. So, Mr. Luna, keep your eyes open for her one day. Her teachers say she always puts forth 110% effort, she works well with her peers, and she will certainly do great things in the future, and I believe that. She would like to thank all of her teachers for encouraging her to be her best, and Dr. Luttrell and the Brown Bears will be happy to have her next year. So I present to you Ms. Sophia Simmons.
You would all rise for the pledges. Ms. Cross will start.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
The parents, if you would come forward, we'll have a photo up here. It's good to have all of you, and parents, thank you for taking time to come tonight. We appreciate you sharing your students with us. We're moving on to recognitions in item 4. At this time, we'd like Ms. Judy Weber to introduce our staff recognitions tonight.
Violated federal law. In doing so, TEA then established the Evaluation Capacity Grant. It's designed to research, identify, procure, and deploy resources and personnel to assist school districts in securing appropriately certified and licensed evaluation staff for the purpose of completing the evaluations for the eligibility of special education students. A few months back, Jill Huber took it upon herself to apply for one of these grants, and along with her leader, Laura Merchant, Dr. Laura Merchant, Forney ISD was awarded $20,000 to help with some of the cost in identifying special education students. So I want to recognize Jill Huber and her efforts to secure money for Forney to help in an area of need.
Jill, you don't get out a photo with the word That's right.
We'll be skipping item B and moving on to item number 5, Texas Academic Performance Report Card. Mrs. Weber will be presenting this also.
All right, well, Texas Education Code requires each district's Board of Trustees to publish an annual report that includes the Texas Academic Performance Report, in addition to PEIMS Financial Standards Report, Campus Performance Objectives, a report of criminal incidences, and information received under the Texas Education Code. The Board of Trustees shall hold a hearing for public discussion of such report. This report pulls together a wide range of information on the performance of students in each school in the district every year. The report provides extensive information on schools and district academic success, staffs, programs, and student demographics. The TAPER reports are published on our website, and tonight I will give you a summary of the lengthy report that you have with you tonight. So, we're always very proud when our campuses meet standard, and obviously all of our campuses this past year, under last year's accountability, all met standard. But I'm very proud to really share some of the overall data, and I'll go through district data versus each little content area and content test. But you can see district, region, and state reflected here in our 2018 performance. In Domain 1, the STAAR Approaches grade level, these are our students who have met the measure of passing the STAAR test, and you can see that we are nicely above the region and state levels on Approaches grade level. When I look at Domain 2, that's our kids who have met or exceeded growth. And you can see, once again, in reading and math, when I put all of our tests together, our district is beating the region and the state. When I look at how we really did in growth, we took a big jump last year in growing our students, as reflected here. And we're really, really proud, no matter where our students are, we're growing each and every one. And as a collective, you can see we took a nice jump in growth this year. When we look at kind of the longitudinal data and go back from year to year, Forney ISD grew in reading at the mastery level when we compile all of our assessments together. And once again, we're above region and state, but the state kind of flatlined there, and we made some gains. So this is our approaches grade level, and you can see, once again, our numbers have been trending up. We're well above our region and, of course, the state. And then look at Domain 3. This is our meets grade level, but Domain 3 really looks at our subpopulations and very specific measures. And there's some subject areas that are clearly above Region 10, and all of them are higher than the region as a whole. So our Student Success Initiative Cumulative Met Standard, our numbers jumped considerably up on the in reading in 5th and 8th, the 2 SSI subject years, so we made some significant gains there. And then for 5th, math jumped considerably. We kind of flatlined with our region in math, and we've been looking into what caused that one, but it's the only indicator that we're not clearly above Region 10. So we have some concerns with fast growth and some of what really is happening with our mobility rate. And so this little graph kind of shows you that we do have a couple campuses that have high mobility, and we do, it is affecting some of their STAAR scores. They're growing students, but it affects some of their meets grade level. When you look at the mobility of our Northside campuses, they really are facing some constraints compared to, say, our Southside elementaries at 7% of mobility. We kind of predict to see those numbers increase even more so for this year. So in terms of our data, it's always a reality that we look at the students who didn't meet and try to identify what are some of the reasons. And we noticed that 81% of those students have been in Forney less than 2 years. So we're really digging into what happens after those 2 years. How long is it taking us to get students caught up? How much easier it is to catch up students in the younger grades when they're more malleable than it is when our high school students move in and struggle at meeting the standard in STAAR. So there's always areas for us to identify as a district on how do we continue to grow and make great gains. Our grad rate, it's nearly as high as it can be on the 4-year and 5-year trend. And you can see that Region 10 even is a little bit below state level there. Our attendance rates, they do fluctuate, but once again, we're always trying to make sure our students are there, students not learning often when they're not at home. But once again, like all the other data, we're doing well compared to the region and the state. And then we look at some of our college career readiness measures. And you can see, look at the data here, and that's the beauty of having these reports. We always want to be transparent with, but our college-ready graduates, you can see that the district is 44% compared to the region and state. This is one of the measures where we were impacted by the change in accountability system that disallowed some of the things that we used as a measure to show that a student was college ready, such as the CTE coherent sequence. And so they changed the rules mid-year, part of the way through the game, and yet the data lags. So we've addressed some of those, but we're still higher in, so you can see we're much higher in CTE coherent sequence, and yet they reduce that measure's impact on the accountability system. So I wanted to show you this. I had it in last year's presentation. Index 4 was really that indicator for this college ready, and you can see where Forney was compared to really, really competitive, high-quality districts. And when we used to count the coherent sequence, we were at the top of the pack. By them removing that allowance and a measure for CCMR, it's affecting our data and the way we are scoring in Domain 3. So that was eliminated. We always have to report our financial integrity ratings, and we're an A superior. We meet on accountability, and obviously we are accredited. So we meet many of the other measures. In terms of violence prevention and intervention policies, Forney has a long list. In fact, it's so long that part of it's not on the slide anymore. But you can see that we offer a number of supports for our students, and we're continually adding these. The list is pretty extensive on what we're trying to do, and we're continually looking at the behaviors of our students and what do we need to do to meet the needs. Safe and Drug-Free School Act is something we have to report on, and so we have programs for our elementary students that our time is a growing program that we use extensively, and then in middle school, guidance lessons, Aim for Success, some programs to help counteract cyberbullying and such, and then once again, it's kind of off the slide in what we do in mentoring programs with our high schools, but we do receive funds to work for the reduction of crimes and criminal offenses in school. So this was just a brief summary of a very, very long and detailed report, but I really wanted to pull out the highlights in our district and both the areas where we're doing very well and compared to our Region 10, which is a really tough region, and the state, and then be transparent with the areas where it doesn't look as great because of some of the changes in the accountability system midway through the year. So, at this time, do you have any questions?
Board, I know you've had time to review this and you've had time to hear her summaries, but do you have any further questions for Ms. Weber? Are there any questions from the audience? This is a public hearing report, and I hear none. Do I have a motion to close the Texas Academic Performance Report Annual Public Hearing?
So moved.
Mr. Andrews, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Carroll? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And so this public hearing is closed. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. Moving on to item 6, public forum. I don't believe we had anybody signed up to speak at this time, so we'll skip 6 and move on to 7 in our reports. The next 5 items are reports only and require no action from the board. First of all, item 7A and B will be presented by Ms. Kim-Morzak. The first will be Future Ready report, and then following that, she'll share with us the master plan update. Ms. Morzak?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris, Dr. Terry, board. At this time, I'd like to invite Ms. Robin Pierce to present to you our Future Ready report. Robin is the Director of Future Ready Assessment and Guidance, and I'm pretty excited about what she has to share with you guys. We have a lot going on, specifically in our CTE program, as well as our guidance program, and Robin's going to kind of update you on what's happening in the area of Future Ready for our students. So, Robin?
Hello. Thank you. I'm really excited to share with you. There is a massive amount of information. So I did have a lot of slides with a lot of words and was told to back off the words. So I have my notes so I don't forget all of the stuff I have to tell you because there's a lot. So just bear with me. But it's going to be good because it's exciting stuff. So for our Future Ready and counseling services, we kind of base goals this year in 5 areas. And that's business partnerships, CT experiences, resources and supports for our students and families, as well as college and career readiness and our higher ed partners, and to enhance and grow all of those to provide more opportunities for our students. So we'll kind of go through all those through this presentation. First, partnerships. I'll hit on this through each slide and where we've added these partnerships, but we have gained new partnerships this year that we're really excited about, as well as our current partnerships, how we've enhanced a lot of those as well. And I'm sorry, my nose is really running. I'm getting sick, so. Our CTE programs, through all of our CTE programs, our students have presented this year at national conferences. They have designed engineering prototypes. They have helped vet our Future Ready curriculum. They have helped teachers provide resources for our campuses. The list goes on, and I'm going to break down each pathway in the next few slides so you can really get an idea of what we're doing in each pathway. The first one is our business and industry. Goodness. So first thing, our vet med students, this is their 2nd year of providing a doggy daycare and grooming service for our district employees. So far this year, we have already doubled the number of pets that we have served as for the whole entire year of last year. So we're really excited about that, and we have partnered with vets so they can also come out and they provide vaccinations 2 times per year for those vets as well for the animals that visit the grooming. So that's exciting. Our graphic design students opened up the Design Lab, which is a print shop that provides banners, signs, decals, anything print related for our campuses. And that's slowly growing, getting the word out to our campuses. And we are looking to expand that over the course of the remainder of this year into next year to start doing direct-to-garment printing, which is really exciting. And the students are really excited about that to help provide more support for our campuses and student organizations as well. are, see, that's where I gotta get my notes on. Sorry. Let's see. Culinary arts? Oh, no. Culinary arts, to make intakes for our district employees. Another great thing about culinary arts this year, they went to state with their management team, so they did move on to state. They will do the cooking portion of ProStart later on, but the management team did advance to state, so we're really excited about that in the culinary arts program. Our audio-visual pathway with a new partnership, Daktronics. In March, we will train about we have 5 students right now that we have selected that have really expressed an interest in helping with running, designing, everything that has to do with the new scoreboard. And so they're really excited about that and will be trained in March. And then throughout the course of the summer, be trained on that from running the cameras to running the actual board itself. So that's exciting. Okay, yay. Oh, and this year we'll have our first annual film festival. So that's exciting. And the theme is going to be family. And so it will be open up district-wide for all students of all ages if they want to submit a small commercial all the way up to a 5-minute video on family. And so that will start, and we're looking at trying to rent out the AMC and have like kind of a red carpet event. But our audio-visual teachers will be heading that up and kind of getting and be judging the videos, so that's real exciting. So this is be our first year to do that. So that's business and industry. STEM. So our STEM pathway, our STEM students, our Practicing with STEM students, like I said earlier, has designed prototypes this year. And I mean like amazing prototypes. They have made, as you can see, go-karts that run and function, a hovercraft that actually does, when someone stands on it, hovers about 3 inches off the ground. Really cool. They have made arcade games. They have made robots. They have made manipulatives for teachers. They use a 3D machine, if you see in the bottom right of your screen is the brain and all the portions of the brain. And they designed and printed that on the 3D machine and made like a puzzle out of it for our elementary. And so really cool stuff. We do have a new partnership for our STEM students to provide more opportunities with Eastfield and Texas A&M School of Engineering. And so it's called the Chevron Engineering Academy. So our students will continue in their high school career, be able to take dual credit classes as usual, but also be afforded the opportunity during the summer to take engineering classes at Eastfield. And once they graduate from Forney High or North Forney, they will go to Eastfield for 2 semesters taking engineering courses and then be automatically admitted into Texas A&M School of Engineering. So that's pretty awesome. So really excited about that new partnership. We also have partnered with this year, which will start towards the end of the year and be full on next year, is AOPA, which is the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, which they will provide curriculum for our teachers and training in aerospace. And then the senior year, any of our STEM students will have the opportunity to get their flight license their senior year, which is really cool. So that's exciting. We have expanded our partnership with VEX. And so beginning next year, we will have VEX Robotics in grades 5 through 12 with the goal and the hopes that we will start competing in VEX Robotics competitions, which will expand, our STEM program in addition to what we're already doing. So that is STEM. Whew. Next. Am I talking too fast? No, okay. Public service pathway. Let's see, we'll start with law enforcement. Law enforcement has doubled in enrollment from the year before last, which we're really excited about, and it's already meeting that enrollment. We just started registration for the 1920 school year. But we have partnered with UNT in their Department of Criminal Justice, and our students have already gone out there once for a site visit where they met and got to go through what is all done through the School of Criminal Justice in UNT. And then they will come back later in the spring and meet with those students again and they are interested in the criminal justice field, what path they can go and what they need to do to get accepted this summer, or what they can take at Eastfield so that they can then be prepared to go to UNT and get accepted into the College of Criminal Justice. Our health science is one of our largest growing pathways. And this year we partnered with, one of our big new partnerships is Baylor Scott and White. They came out and trained all of our health science students this fall, and then also provided rotations for them, which we're really excited about because it's hard to find facilities for all of our health science students to go out and actually do rotations because we have so many. We have also, as you heard last month in the update, partnered with Eastfield, and this spring we'll be providing a CNA certification for students at Forney High and North Forney. So they will be able to get that certification at the end of the year. And to kind of bleed into resources and support, which is coming up, education and training every year hosts their own kind of angel tree just for our pre-K and PPCD students. And the education and training department of both Forney High and North Forney head that up. And this year we had over 488 students involved in making that happen, either from donating or assisting in planning or being there and helping set up for the event. And they, this year, gave 217 gifts away to pre-K and PPCD students, which is a really amazing event that's done every year at Forney High School. And so just to celebrate them and the resources and supports that they're providing to the community. The next goal that I had was resources and supports. We really kind of focus on 6 areas in the counseling services aspect. And that's counselor office tracking, and I'll go into that next. Professional development for our counselors, our student and family engagement, weekend backpack program, our family resource guide, and then character education and future ready skills. The counselor office visits, we started this at the end of last year and have continued it this year. So every time a student comes into a counselor's office, they put in Skyward what they came to see them for. Not any details, but just whether it was these 8. We break it down into 8 categories, as you can see there. And this year, from September to January, our counselors saw over 3,300 students in their offices for one of these 8 reasons. We take this information to help provide resources and support to our counselors and the campuses. So this year, based on this data, we have provided crisis response training for our counselors, social emotional learning training, self-awareness training, cultural awareness training, and then we'll continue to add as we see a need for each campus and district, the district as a whole, what kind of areas of support our families and students need at the campus level. Some highlights from this year for the resources in our partners throughout the community. As you know, we partner with the Forney Food Pantry, and this year we have the weekend backpack program that is continuing from last year, but we provide 150 backpacks each week to 150 students and families. And so what they do is every Friday they get a backpack full of food, and they bring that backpack back on Monday, and then we refill it again, and every Friday they get to take home food for their family. And it's anonymous. They just pick up a backpack as they leave to get on the bus or get parent pickup from kindergarten through 12th grade. So that's really just another support that they provide. Our counselors provide character education and guidance lessons, and we partner with Core Education Training, which is designed from actually Chick-fil-A. And everyone knows they have good customer service every time you go. So, and they provide lessons on everything from perseverance to self-awareness, responsibility. And so our counselors go through and do that within the classrooms. Another thing that has provided support is, of course, our STEAM camps. And each year we've grown. Last year, or last summer, we provided 37 STEAM camps and served over 851 students during the summer, during our STEAM camps. And next year, she started accepting teachers who would like to hold a STEAM camp, and we're already at over 40 that have already wanted to hold a STEAM camp. So it's just growing each year, and the response has been great with students participating. In partnerships with the Forney Lion Club, we do Angel Tree, and This year, 227 students and 96 families received an angel from Forney ISD that was provided from our Forney ISD faculty and students. So that's really exciting and grows each year as well. The next goal is our college and career readiness. Again, a lot of things going on here. One is we provide future-ready lessons, K through 12, monthly to our students. We also have partnered with Texas A&M again and had our first annual Youth and Parent Academy this past Saturday, which we had about 70 families sign up, but only about 20 families actually attended Saturday, but those that did attend said it was amazing. We had a keynote speaker and then breakout sessions just talking about college in general. Some things specifically to A&M, some just broad, from FAFSA to what to expect in college and finding your endorsement and what you want to do when you grow up. So it was very successful in that those parents and students really enjoyed, and they provide breakfast and lunch, and we'll continue to do that yearly for our community and parents. We partnered with Edgenuity, and now we offer online prep courses for TSI, SAT, PSAT, and ACT for all of our 7th through 12th graders. So any student that express interest, a counselor can sign them up for the course, and so that they can have that support before they go in and take that test. Our post-secondary advisors, which are our kind of our liaison between Eastfield and Forney ISD, have provided this year, at minimum, every month they bring in a different college. The colleges provide lunch for our high school students, and students can register, and they are provided lunch, and then they get a 30-minute presentation from whichever college. Last month was Texas Tech, and then this week I know that Tarleton State University will be here with their Go Van, and they talk to them about the expectations of their college, admissions, and what they offer. So that's just something that students can sign up for at both high school campuses. We have increased our number of dual credit, and I'll go through actual numbers, as well as articulated credits for our CTE programs, and that will continue to grow next year. We have college and career days at our elementary campuses. We, of course, have our college and career focus night, which is tomorrow for this year, and then our annual college fair. One major thing that helps our college and career is obviously the Forney Education Foundation. They are the reason why our dual credit numbers are skyrocketing in addition to our partnership with Eastfield. But as you know, this year they provided over 130 scholarships, which is equal to about 285 dual credit courses this year in scholarships. And one thing we're really excited about is that this year will be the first year that the Forney Education Foundation will actually support our industry certifications and our AP students, and provide up to $100 per student reimbursement for making a 3 or better on an AP exam or passing an industry certification exam. And we're really excited to provide this opportunity to our students. And in just talking to our CTE teachers and our AP teachers, they are ecstatic. They're so excited, so we're really excited about that. Highlights, we're almost done. Our dual credit highlights. From 17-18 to 18-19, we grew in 112 dual credit courses students took. This year, from 18-19 to next year, we just started registration, but we're already up an additional 122 dual credit courses that have been enrolled in. We still have 3 more weeks of registration to go, and the majority of those are our sophomores and juniors, so we expect that number will continue to grow, but we're already at 122 with still 3 weeks left. So we're really excited about increasing those dual credit numbers. Are there any questions? That was a lot.
Do you have any questions from the board?
All right.
Thank you, Robin. We appreciate that, and all your work is putting this together. And I know the other night at the foundation meeting, they were excited about the new CT opportunities and the AP exams. So now the foundation assists students at all levels.
All levels, Absolutely. It's
whatever their
exciting.
goals are. So it's exciting to see how that's grown, and I know that the original founders, that really fills their hearts too, because they're touching more kids than they ever thought they could. So thank you for your help.
Thank you.
She had a lot. My next item is the master planning update. And Vaughn, we gave him the night off, so I'm going to kind of just give you an update on our current projects at Ray and Smith. It's really beginning to take shape. This week, they're going to pour the sidewalks, put all the restroom fixtures in. They've about finished the tile in the bathrooms, but that will be completed this week. And then the ceiling grid's going to start coming in, and the casework. And then next week, the hydro test, interior doors will start coming in, and then the hard ceilings and ceiling tile grid will come in. So it really is starting to look like a school. Just a few pictures to kind of give you an update. This is at Ray. I'm not really sure what that first picture is, but the second picture is a picture of the learning stairs, and I have a little bit better picture in a second. Do you know what it is? It's a wall, but I don't know where it is. I do know it's a wall, thank you. An interior wall, but I don't know what it exactly is. But thank you, Christopher. The third picture there is the exterior of the bathroom. It's a really neat design. There's water fountains in an inset that goes into the restrooms with that tile in the back. They're really sharp looking. And then some ceiling grid with some duct work coming in. The next picture is from the second story of the balcony where that art room is going to be, overlooking the back at Smith. We'll be overlooking houses here pretty shortly, but right now there's a little bit of a field. You can get a little bit better picture of the bathroom. There's no fixtures in, obviously, but that tile work continues inside. It's a really, really nice design. Some of the casework's coming in, and then just the boys' restroom there on the right. It's a little bit better picture of the learning stair. The concrete is in. There will be wood accents around the outside. I think that's due to come in about 3 weeks. So really looking sharp at Ray and Smith. At this time, I'm actually going to invite Huckabee up to kind of give you an update on the elementary expansions. I'll pull that up for you, Kip. Kip Jameson.
He's an engineer.
Board members and Dr. Terry, thank you for allowing us to come back again this month. I think what you'll see tonight's a little more advanced of the documents, and I'm going to ask, I can just hit the little arrow to click to the next one. Yeah. Okay. So just a reminder, we're adding on to Blackburn, Crosby, Henderson, and Lewis elementary schools with a part of this scope. And so what we've been able to do in the last month is get our survey information in, so we do have that finalized. We've right-sized the building additions and the locations of where they will physically fit on the site. We've looked at the playground locations, a little more detail into the plan view in just a minute, but 3 of the 4 schools, Lewis being the exception, all take place on the same side of the building, so you'll see that common with the exception of Lewis. Find my arrow again. Here it is. This is the Crosby site. Again, the front door faces Diamond Creek, the addition again off to the side. We do have some exterior renderings that are quite a bit more developed now, and also interior as well as we get into the last few slides you'll see. Henderson, again, same side of the building as the other 2. We are showing the potential for some added stacking space to get cars off of the County Road 1641, and we're still investigating the potential for adding some additional parking at this site as well. Lewis Elementary, again, the one that's a little bit odd. We're still, we do have the building, the addition located now. We know we need to expand the parking. One thing we did discover that we didn't know at the beginning was there's a propane tanks buried underground out there that we have to stay away from, and those are on the far left side of the site. So we're trying to make sure that we can get all the parking in there that we need, and that drive may extend around and tie into the fire lane turnaround on the southeast side of the site. So we're still working with our engineers on those to try to get all that worked out. So our next update, all that will be complete, and we'll be actually getting pretty close to time to go out for bid very shortly. So This is just an overall plan of each school, since they're all the same. At the very top is our administrative renovation, in the middle is the library hub renovation work, and then at the very bottom is the classroom addition and our storm shelter piece. So we've started test fitting some furniture into all of the spaces now with a little more detail. We're still playing around with that a little bit. These are not exactly what will end up be. Some of them are close, but we are working with our furniture people and our interior designers to make sure that all these work and fit appropriately. So if there are principals in the room, these furniture layouts are not final, or in some cases what match the existing furniture you have, so we're still working on that part of it. We are changing things up a little bit, but again, as you can see at the very bottom of the reception area, the gray area is actually a portion of the vestibule space, and the little window to over the desk area is where people will check in without having to come into the office. So that's one of the features that this one will have to try to keep some of the traffic down coming into the office suite. I'm moving kind of fast, so if you need to ask a question or just interrupt me, please do so. The hub area is where we've been spending a lot of time primarily getting the furniture in here, some of the fixtures, and just the glass and a lot of interior aspects of this space, and I hope you'll see that in the interior rendering. This furniture layout we see now is starting to approximate what we think will end up in there. We're still working in the collaboration spaces. The two classrooms you see off to the side are actually spaces that may be utilized in more than one way. So that's going to be up to the workload in the school and what the principal needs those spaces for at the end of the day. The biggest part of what we're doing and the most expensive part is the classroom addition. So this is a pretty finalized layout of the classrooms. The 4 classrooms on the right are not part of the shelter. Everything to the left of that corridor that runs north-south is a part of the shelter. We're currently been working with Gallagher to just make sure our square footages fall in to meet their numbers. And right now, we're right on target where we should be. Our goal was to reach approximately 1,000 capacity for the shelter. Right now, we're at 988. So we're going to find a way to squeeze 12 more people in there somehow to make this accommodate 1,000. It looks like the 988 number will work. We still have a meeting with the city to go over our calculations with them, and that will take place probably within the next month. We're close to finalizing the design, and then we'll sit down with them one more time and just make sure they're on board with everything that we're doing. Our code requirements are pretty straightforward. We have to do certain things. You can see down at the very bottom of this in the gray, again, is our control room, and that is the primary space where the operation of the shelter will take place if there was ever an event, which is hopefully unlikely. So these next 4 pictures are the renderings, and you can see they're quite a bit updated from the last version we showed you. We kind of lowered the angle to be more straight on, so the portion of the building on the left is the actual addition. The remainder of the building on the right is the existing building. This particular campus, I want to say is Crosby, but I'm not sure which one. So we picked one and tried to match the brick and the look of that. So all 4 of these, again, will look very similar. And we'll bring all 4 of the renderings back to you when we have those completed. I do have a little blow-up of just the addition itself, or a little bit closer look. So you'll see the windows in the 4 classrooms up front that are not part of the shelter. Everything in the back part of the building that is a part of the shelter will not have windows in it. That does create issues for us if we do put windows in them. So we're moving forward with these, and we'll be turning over drawings to Gallagher next week as well, so they can start refining their numbers as well. So last time we kind of showed you an empty space of what we thought this hub space could be. Gone through a lot of discussions internally with the district and with our team as well. I think we're getting close to where this wants to be at the end of the day. So this is kind of our first updated look at this space. We're excited about it. We do have some more tweaks with the furniture still to do. It seems to be an ongoing thing, but I think we're really close on doing that. We're trying to make this space as open as possible, so this is kind of the view you'll get as you walk in the front door of these campuses when you walk in. We do have one more image, just looking back the other way at the very back, so you can see we've got just a small stair on the very back side of the hub space where you can have kids just sit and lounge, or possibly have a speaker as well up there on the platform to talk to a group of students. All of the furniture is really designed and will be movable, so you can rearrange the space, and there's a lot of different activities that'll take place within this space. And I think that's all we've got tonight for you. So, if there's any questions or comments? If not,
Go ahead.
Can you go back to the slide that showed the detail of the new expansion, the new classrooms?
this one?
Does the shelter control room, is that designed, the concept of the design of that for law enforcement to be able to get in there as well, or is it just for our use?
Yeah, it's really just for your use, and we've had an initial meeting with the district personnel and formulating a committee that there's just a lot of training that has to take place on how these operate, but the goal is that it's operated by the school staff. And the directions that will be posted in that room, and the drills that you'll have to do, similar to a fire drill or a lockdown drill or whatever, will be fairly straightforward. The controls are very simple to operate. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but the gist of it is that once everybody's in the shelter, the doors are locked down, nobody gets in, nobody gets out, and without some kind of communication taking place. The biggest thing that we're stressing as we go through these things, that this is designed for the school itself. It's really not designed for anybody else to come into that, but it's strictly for the students and the staff and any visitors really that are in the building at the time. So and that's why the capacity of the shelters is so important, that we hit that number directly. So the code requires us to do a lot of things. The biggest thing is just to make a nice protective barrier on all four sides and the roof, and that's what we've done here. So.
Thank you. And then my second question was, in this shelter, there's no window. So within the code of that shelter, is there no opportunity for natural light at all?
The answer to that is yes. The size of the natural light is very limited, and the cost to do it is very expensive to do. And it's well over $100 a square foot just to put glass in these buildings. And then we still have to put a shutter on top of that, just to make sure nothing penetrates through that opening. So it can be done, it comes at a very high cost. And on the buildings that we do, and a new building is primarily the gym. We have not been putting any natural light in those buildings. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of artificial light. In the classroom portions that we've done, we've only done a few of these. One of them chose to put some glass in there. The others have not. So it's a choice. It's just a very expensive choice if we decide to go that route.
Yeah, and Mr. Carroll might add too that this design, we actually have the majority of our classrooms already that do not have their interior rooms, and they don't have that natural light. So this campus would be pretty commonplace to have a few rooms like that.
Okay.
I've got one question.
Okay.
Can you go to the rendering of the hub?
The interior, exterior.
Interior. And you already mentioned that, I just want to confirm, but all the casework or millwork that's underneath these learning trees or whatever these are, those can all be moved as well? Nothing's fixed, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. I think we have some perimeter shelving that we're maintaining that's existing, that some of that will stay in place. Beyond that.
But that'd be on like outside walls and so
Yes.
forth? Right.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
At this time, Mr. Gear is going to give us an update on our elementary reconfiguration.
Thank you, Ms. Morsack. So when you go to the education model, first question comes up, how do you reallocate all these teachers, right, that are being displaced? So you can imagine the debate and conversations that went on. Dr. Terry, I will share with you, he suggested boxing gloves. That was only by Dr. Donahue. She liked that idea. The rest of them didn't really like that. So, did I wake you up? Sorry, Barbie.
Great minds think alike, Barbie. That's right.
But I will compliment Tommy Riggs, our Executive Director of Human Resources, and the hours and time he spent in working with our campus administration, coming up with what we thought was a great plan for this reallocation of our teachers. And as we went through this process, the first and foremost, we wanted to meet the needs of our students. That was our first at our top of our list. Second was what was best for our campus and the districts, and then staff came third. Not that they were at the bottom, but it had to be that order that we're putting kids first. So as we went through these major components that we considered, gave you a list here. I'm not going to read through there. But as we went through this, we obviously gathered teacher input. We wanted it to be an equitable process, but also we were limited by the amount, facilities that we had to work with. So with that being said, some of the programs like dual language, we made a holistically decision to move that, the K-4 program, to Criswell. And so with that, it limited with our new attendance zone modifications. Other decisions were made on an individual basis. And after we went through the selection process, which I felt like it went great, I don't know if that was total consensus, but Tommy and I, as we debriefed afterwards, we truly felt that it was a good process and a very equitable process. Then the next step was we started looking at, with our new additions of teaching slots, we started looking at teachers' preferences and trying to see if we could make those happen with slots that we had open. So it was a good layer to add on to that as well, and we had a little bit of success. Then the last step is obviously we couldn't make everybody's first choice happen. It just wasn't possible. The numbers wouldn't allow that. And so I want to give you a little bit of statistics of what happened, how it broke down. 79.8% did receive their first choice, which is amazing. And then our first and second choice was almost 90%. Then those that received their first, second, or third choice was almost 94%. And so we felt like it was a huge success through this process. And there is still another layer coming. We really believe there's going to be additional slots open through not only through growth, but also through teacher attrition. And so we opened up the transfer process immediately after this. And so that'll be another step that we really hope to get those percentages a lot higher than they even are now. But we felt like it was a very successful endeavor and felt we accomplished what we need to accomplish. Any other questions, any questions I may answer for you about the process?
Just one. How many teachers were in this collection? How many
There
teachers
was
did we?
a total of 292.
Okay.
Yes, sir. All right.
Sorry, I have
Sure,
one other
go ahead.
question.
I'm sorry.
The teachers all know where they're going now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. They all received an email Friday, February the 1st. And we're working on the aides on campus right now, and so we're hoping to let them know here pretty soon. Be very limited movement for that.
Mr. Ferris, if you don't mind, I'd just like to compliment our staff. This was not something that anyone looked forward to, obviously, but I've got to compliment our principals. They came up with a great process working with Rick and Tommy, and to see those numbers in the end, I'm just very proud of what you did, and I know that we'll continue to work to improve those each and every day through the transfer process.
And well, I give credit, like I
Yeah.
mentioned, Mr. Riggs, and then our elementary principals. Everyone really did put kids first. And so when you have a staff that's doing that, you can't ask for much more than that.
A lot of hours and a lot of meetings. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, and I would say kudos also. It's been 72 hours. I've had no email, no phone calls, so I appreciate you all. And if Christopher said, has it been get told yet? If Christopher didn't know, that tells you, you did a great job, because none of us have heard differently, so thank you. Moving on then to item 7C. 7C, D, and E will let Mr. John Chase cover those. First will be our monthly financial report, then the quarterly investment report, and then we'll have the tax collection report. So, Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. The monthly financial report for the activity ending December 2018 is included in your board packet for review, just the highlights of the report. In the revenue section, we received $21.5 million for the month. It's a pretty high collection month for tax collections. In December and January, after January, the taxes are delinquent at that point. So the folks that wanted to get the taxes paid to write them off on their tax return, at least that used to be the way it was. Now that the tax laws have changed, I don't know if that's still be the case anymore. But in any event, a lot of people will pay them before December, and those that don't will pay them in January. Moving on to the expense side, we had $6.8 million of expenditures for the month. So the year-to-date total on revenues was $43.8 million, or 51% of the amount estimated. And year-to-date expenditures were $43.3 million, or 49% of the amount estimated. And so it's no surprise, we're 6 months into the fiscal year for this report, that we're right at about 50% collected and expended. So we're right on track where we thought we would be. Moving on to the debt service report, we did have $10.3 million of revenue collected again. Tax collections pretty heavy this month. We had no expenditures for the month coming up in February, which would be 2 months after this report is issued. But we do have big tax payments that we have this month, or the interest that we have semi-interest annual interest payments that we'll be making. But in December we had nothing. So year-to-date revenue recognized was $11.1 million, or 54% of the amount estimated, and expenditures through December were $13.4 million, or 72% of the amount estimated. And again, after February, that number in the expense column will be somewhere around the 100% mark. So finally, the cash investments through December totaled $59.9 million. Again, we have large tax collections, so we're going to be pretty cash heavy at this point in our fiscal year. So that after January, that amount will start going back down again to when we finally get down to the end of the fiscal year, we'll have about $20 million or so. So that concludes the financial report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Next is a quarterly investment report. Again, we did have $60.9 million on hand at the end of December. This was on deposit either at Citibank or with one of 3 approved investment pools, Texas Pool Logic or Texas Class. The interest rate that we earned at Citibank for the money that was on deposit is just over 1%, and then as high as Texas Class, we had 2.42%. So the total amount of interest we earned for the quarter was just right at $230,000. And again, this is pretty good considering, as I said a few years back when we were getting 0.5 or 0.2 even. So interest earnings are up, and that's a good thing for us. We can help finance teacher pay or whatever we need to finance with it. So that concludes the investment report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. No. So finally, we have the quarterly tax report, tax collection report. Again, our tax levy for this year was $62.2 million. This is a little over 13% higher than it was the prior year. We've discussed this a number of times since July when we got our certified tax collection or tax values. They with new value and increasing appraisals, our levies have gone up to proportionately. So just over 13, a little over 13.5% actually. So the total collections, current collections was $31.8 million, and this is about a little over 51% of the amount of the current levy. If you look at our 5-year average collection at the same point in time, it's almost right at 52%, 51.9. So we're pretty well right on track with that. On delinquent collections, we had $543,000 through December, and this is about 0.9%, and it was the same percentage, or about right at 0.8% if you look at the 5-year average. So again, we're right on track with that. And then finally, with the large delinquent adjustment to the roll, we've talked about this a number of times. As you look over the last 3 or 4 years, we've had pretty large adjustments, positive adjustments to our delinquent tax levy. That's all related to the ag rollback taxes. And as you know, when ag property comes out of ag value and it gets appraised at market because it's changing its use, then they go back and reappraise the property for the last 5 years, and the taxpayer has to pay the taxes on it as if it was valued at market value for that last 5 years. So we have a lot of activity going on in our district these days, a lot of dirt moving. So with the changing in from ag to residential or commercial or whatever it's changing to, we'll have more of that until our growth stops. So, but that concludes the quarterly tax report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Chase. Moving on to item 8 is a consent agenda. You've had these in your packet and had a chance to review those. We'll be looking at item 8A, minutes from January 14th regular meeting. Item 8B, approve the budget amendments. Item 8C, approve purchase with Move Solutions. We're going to remove 8D at this time and skip to 8E, approve class size waiver. And 8F, approve resolution authorizing investment officer training providers. So do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda excluding 8D?
Mr. Ferris, I'll make a motion to approve items 8 through C and E and F collectively as presented.
Thank you. Have a second? Second. Mr. Andrews? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Now back to 8D. We need to approve a utility easement at North Forney High School. Mr. Chase?
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. As we showed in the background information tonight, Farmers Electric Co-op is building a substation just north of the North Forney High School property, and that substation they would like to connect a line to a transformer that's actually located just north of the ag barn that we have out there. And you can see in this picture, this dark line here, and that's the easement that they're asking for. It's 20 feet wide and approximately 700 feet in length. It does parallel the dotted line that's listed there. It does parallel an existing gas line easement, so it's really not really detracting from the property as it currently stands. Now, one of the as I said in the background memo, one of the advantages for us is that if we connect, allow them to connect that substation to our high school, we're basically one of the first customers that'll be receiving power from the substation. So, if there's any outages downline from us, then it wouldn't affect us having power at that location. And then the second thing was that the substation that we're currently receiving power from, if for some reason this substation goes down, they can quickly flip a switch and transfer and have us receiving power from an alternate site. So it just kind of had a backup, a little redundancy there. So it should help us with the amount of downtime that we could potentially experience in power outages and so forth. And so our recommendation would be that we approve this utility easement. We didn't get the actual meets and bounds description of what easement that they're proposing tonight. They're still working on that with their surveyor and what have you. And so what we'd recommend is as laid out that you see here. Again, that easement would be all underground. There's no lines that would be run above ground. And so we would recommend from administration that you grant the superintendent the authority to finalize the easement when we receive it, and it's got the meets and bounds descriptions as it's generally described here in this photo.
You've heard the presentation and recommendation from administration. Do I have any questions?
I've got a couple.
Go ahead.
Quick. So because of the existing Lone Star gas easement right there, we would not have been able to build in that location now. So this parallel run doesn't change up how we would be using the campus at all, right?
That is correct. There is already an existing gas line easement, and I think you can build a concrete road over top of them, or I don't think you can span the length of it at all, but you can build over it, and there's some criteria that's involved there. But as a general rule, I mean that easement is already the gas line easement is already kind of affecting the usability of that particular site, and so that existing easement or additional easement. It's just 20 feet longer than what's already out there, and I don't see that would detract from the property.
Yeah,
really,
so no
in any-
change.
I wouldn't see that it would detract it from it in any material way.
And then second question, so, and they're going to provide us the connection to this substation at zero cost?
Correct, they're running all of it.
So redundant power feeds to a campus for nothing?
That's true, yes, sir.
I think anybody would take that deal.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Any further questions? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I move that we allow the superintendent to negotiate the final easement as presented.
I have a motion, Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Regan? Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. That is all the consent agendas. Moving on to item 9, consideration and possible approval of purchase of the district professional development with the Flippin Group. This time we'll turn over to Mr. Rick Gear, Chief of Human Services, as a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. The administration is proposing a comprehensive district-wide professional development plan with the Flippin Group that will span over the next 2 years. These trainings will support our core value of building relationships first, and will train 100% of our staff, including teachers, administrators, and all auxiliary staff. This past summer, our administration and many campus leaders embarked on the leadership blueprint that really has been transforming our district into a self-managing and a high-performing team. Also, this past fall, we had our Vision 21 team as well as campus leaders, and I think a few of our board members attended the flagship for capturing kids' hearts. And so this proposal I'm bringing you tonight will include multiple training offerings. It'll include capturing kids' hearts, leadership blueprint, winning culture, and process champions. And one of the most impactful training to our teachers as well as our campus administration is this capturing kids' hearts. And tonight we have the pleasure of having 2 representatives from the Flippin Group, Dr. Mike Holt, who is the National Director of Education Initiatives. And I wish I could tell you what Jeff Williams does, but he has really been our source of contact with the Flippin Group and his working with our district and trying to find us the right fit to mold into what we really need as a district. And so out of these guys, I thank y'all for being here tonight. I'd like to ask Dr. Holt to come up for a few minutes to give us just a brief overview of the Capturing Kids' Hearts.
Dr. Terry, Mr. Board President, and distinguished members of the board, I only have notes because he said I had a few minutes. Otherwise, I wouldn't need notes. But Jeff, this is Mr. Jeff Williams. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the way you serve our clients. Process, you're just quite a star, and I appreciate working with you. And so, you know, it's really my pleasure and privilege to be here to speak to you just for a little bit about what Capturing Kids' Hearts is. It's very difficult to explain. You almost have to experience it. But let me just start with building a little relational capacity with you and helping you understand why I'm here and how I got here. I started teaching ag in 1981. And I thought that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. Because I love being around kids, I love being around parents, and I loved being around administrators and community members. And then my wife said I needed a raise, so I became a principal. And I found I could still do those same things, and I could change the greater good. So I've gotten to do a lot of things in my life. One of the things in the Flipper Group we try to say is we get to do things, not we have to do things. Everything's a choice. And so in 1995, after I had been a high school principal and looking for a superintendency job, I got an opportunity to go into a low-performing school. And that's all I knew about it. I'll tell you that story a little bit later, but that's how I first met Flippin'. And I became very acquainted with the Flippin' process, what we call capturing kids' hearts. So if you would indulge me just for a few seconds, I'll try to tell you exactly what we cover in Capturing Kids' Hearts. It's a 2 consecutive day training. And in that training, we do three things. One is we want to make sure that the participants leave understanding how to build academic, social, and psychological safety in the classroom. And I think you'll all agree, in today's world, that's very, very important. We also try to teach our participants how to grow high-performing, self-managing teams. One of the things that Flip said to me one time is the only discipline that works is self-discipline. And we all have to have it for things to work like they should. And so even though we call this Capturing Kids' Hearts, it's really a training for teachers and administrators so that they can learn the principles behind what we call capturing a child's heart. And then the third thing we do is we align the administrative and teacher behaviors towards these outcomes or towards these goals, the positive goals, positive outcomes for kids. And so, you know, a lot of people ask me, well, you mean, so you teach people how to build relationships? Well, yes, but it's more than that, because what we know about teaching and leadership is you have to lay aside a personal agenda of that may be something you want to accomplish in order to serve a greater agenda for others. And so to be able to do that, it's not about personality, it's more about a process. So back in matter of fact, we're celebrating our 30th year as a company this year. And back in 1999, Flip, after working with quite a few students that had been adjudicated, many of them were looking at a time in the penitentiary if his counseling program did not work. He had an epiphany because of something that Dr. Albert Bandura, a social cognitive scientist, posited in 1987. He said that about 70% of all learned behavior is through modeling. And so Flip had this thought, well, if that's true, then I can build a process that we can teach to teachers and administrators, and through their modeling, kids will learn it by infusion. They will learn it by watching teachers and administrators and admiring them and building a relationship that creates that turns on the switch for learning for kids. He also knew that the only way that kids are going to ever really achieve academic success is they have to own their education. Teachers can't own it, administrators can't own it. Students have to do that. And so in order for a student to own their education, they have to be free from the social anxiety that comes from worrying about whether or not they're going to be able to come to school and catch a teacher in a good mood or a bad mood. So it's really not about whether you have good teachers or bad teachers, it's about personal interaction with students and with each other. So this model process is something that I've used since 1995. And I can tell you that it not only made me a better administrator, but it made me a better community leader. It made me a better husband to my wife of 32 years now. And my 3 daughters that I had that all went through my schools while I was principal. Just kind of humorous side note, I walked around the corner one day at lunch and my oldest daughter was sitting in the floor with a couple of her classmates, and one of the classmates says, "Hey, I heard that principal's your dad." And she said, no, I don't even know him. And so I realized, okay, there's got to be something here to this stuff. And so I started implementing Capturing Kids' Hearts in Hillsboro, Texas. It was the second lowest performing school in the state at that time. Now, I didn't know that until I got there, and after I'd already signed the papers, and I went into closed session with the board, and the board said, hey, there's a couple of people you're going to have to remove from that campus because of the way they treat kids. And by the way, it's the second lowest performing school in the state, so we need something done right away. And I was asked, well, what are you going to do? And I got to tell you, I didn't know anything about a school turnaround at all. So I said, we're just not going to tolerate low-performing behavior. And I didn't think it was that funny, but some people laughed. And then I realized I didn't have a very good answer. So I got on the phone the next day with a guy named Flippin. And he was telling me about this thing called Capturing Kids' Hearts. And so I started sending teachers to it, 4 or 5 at a time, as I could afford it. And over 2.5 years, I got everybody trained. Our performance was going up little by little. By the end of the third year in 1998, we were the highest performing junior high in the state. Now, I had a lot of other job offers after that, but I got to tell you, when you create utopia on earth, you don't want to leave. And it was the best job I ever had. But I told Flip in 1998, when he congratulated me, I said, it's not me, it's your process. And every single one of our teachers bought into it, our community bought into it. And it didn't just change the school, it changed the community. There's so many stories I could tell, but the thing is, you have a great school district. You have a great leader. You have great cabinet members. You have people that have vision. And I know from the way that they've talked about the board, this board works together for the greater good of this community. And I know you're all in it to win it, if you will. So what do we do in 2 days called Capturing Kids' Hearts? Well, it's not about personality. It's about a sequential process that is brain science tested, that is science and research based and proven. And it seems very simple on the surface, because in this process we actually talk about shaking hands and meet and greeting people at the door and our kids at the door. But we also talk about social anxiety theory. And every single one of us have experienced that. Social anxiety is whenever we get in a situation where there's fear present. We fear something. We don't know what it is. It may be just the unknown. But we're motivated to do whatever it is we need to do. Kids are a lot of times motivated to come to school because they want to be with kids, but they may not always have the social ineptness to be able to navigate school, especially if they're 1 or 2 grade levels behind, or they're struggling in reading or math or whatever. And so by aligning the teachers' behaviors, administrators' behaviors to the outcomes that we're looking for, what you get is safe classrooms. And what we know is we have to have safe classrooms in order to be able to achieve what we now call rigor. To be able to achieve rigor, you have to give students the opportunity to take risks. If they take risks in an environment where there's no, I guess you would say, negative feedback, where everything's a learning experience, then you can achieve things you can't even dream. And I've seen school systems do it throughout the United States. I currently work in 42 different states. We've been in some of the best schools that you can name, and help them to achieve the higher place that they thought they couldn't get to. And it's through relational capacity. In your packet, I sent Mr. Gear some things that I thought would be beneficial to you. You may not want to take the time to read it, and that's totally okay. But one of them is, well, what does CKH, what does it really do? What difference does it make? And that came as a question from this young man right here. And he and I were having a conversation one day, and he said, well, just tell me, what difference does CKH make? And I said, give me a little bit and I'll have something for you. So I created a one-pager for him that he's used quite a bit, but it's in your packet. It's no longer a one-pager, because a lot of people said they wanted to know the research behind it as well. So we talked about the key performance indicators in here, and those are all the things that are measured that I think that you guys measure and you look at as well. But let me just tell you one thing that I learned whenever I implemented Capturing Kids' Hearts. I didn't know exactly how I was going to pay for it with the budget that I had as a principal. So I went to my CFO. She was a very neat person, and she answered all my questions. And I said, can you tell me how I've been able to pay for this Capturing Kids' Hearts training for the last 2.5 years? And she said, well, I can tell you how we helped you pay for it. And she said, do you know anything about average daily attendance? I said, yeah, I know what that is. And she said, well, at that time, she said, we get about $5,000 for every student for a full year of attendance. And she said, you increased your attendance from 96 to 98, and you held it there for 2 years. She said, it not only paid for your training, it's paid for a lot of the trainings that we've done in our district. And so I tell districts that, because one of the things that I know that you're going to see is you're going to see increased attendance, because kids are going to want to be by the fire with their teachers. They'll come to school to get that special touch, because a lot of times the only appropriate touch that they will get is going to be from a teacher. And we know from the connectedness research that also came out in 1997, called the Resnick study. It was the largest adolescent study of that time. And what they found was that a relationship, an appropriate relationship with an appropriate adult, either at home or at school, is protective against every adolescent risk factor that they measured except one. The one that it didn't protect against was early pregnancy. And the reason it didn't is because you got to be pretty connected for that. So that already happens. That happens, and we can't do a lot of things about that. But what we can do is we can prevent school violence, we can prevent injury to a student themselves or injury to others, discipline referrals, poor attendance, and those connections are so vital and so important to student performance in the future of kids. I'll make one other statement and I'll be done. I met a couple of gentlemen from the Gallup Association a couple of years ago. One of them was Dr. Brandon Bustede, and he was at that time, he was the executive director of research for the Gallup Organization for Education Research. He made a presentation in a conference that I attended, and he said something that just blew me away. He said in their research that they had done in 2016 by surveying teachers, administrators, and superintendents, what they found was that a teacher or an administrator speaking hope into the life of a student, or an appropriate relationship between a student and a teacher or an administrator, has a 35 times greater influence on their success at age 30 than academic preparation. That one got me. I'd always felt it since I'd been involved with Capturing Kids' Hearts, and since I've been working in the company the last 10 and a half years. But to have a piece of research that actually specifies that to that specific amount was pretty incredible. Does anyone have any questions of me before I sit down? Okay, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Jeff and Dr. Holt, for being with us tonight. This systematic approach to professional development from the Flippin Group is the beginning of a transformational multi-year process for teachers and administrators across this district. Board policy requires board action for purchases over $100,000. At this time, I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gear. Any other questions from the board?
Just a couple, Mr. Ferris. Mr. Gear, you mentioned 100% of our staff. Do I understand that interpretation as everyone?
100%, yes, sir. Now, not everybody will actually get there's a process called winning culture that we will train our aides, and we think about bus drivers, custodians, child nutrition. They'll get this thing. It's like a one-day winning culture. It won't actually be the Capturing Kids' Hearts, which is a little bit more designed to the classroom. Yes, sir, but they will be trained on this relational, systematic approach to working with kids. Yes, sir.
And then the second question was the ongoing piece beyond the 2 years for new additions to the district. Will that be based on the number of people we're teaching? Because there's not a number that gives.
Sure, we
based on
estimate.
head count?
Yeah, it's a large purchase up front, and then the ongoing cost would just be induction of new staff coming in. So we see that number going down to between $50,000 and $60,000 annually.
Okay.
It's a good
Thank you.
question.
Any further questions from the board? You hear none. Dr. Terry, do you have a recommendation?
I do, Mr. Ferris. I'll just tell you, I've been dealt with the flipping group for many years now, and probably the most impactful professional development I've ever had as an educator. And we took a group of 50 down for a flagship, and they came back and unanimously said, this is something we need in this school district. And so I'm very excited to recommend that we do engage with the flipping group and Capturing Kids' Hearts and the many other trainings that they offer here in Forney ISD.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Board, you've heard the recommendation and recommendation from Dr. Terry. Do I have a motion?
Ferris, I move we approve the purchase of the district-wide professional development.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Regan. Carol?
Carol.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate you being here tonight. Moving on to item 10, consideration and possible approval of a TASB policy update number 112 affecting local policies listed as a first reading. Mr. Rick Gear, Chief of Human Services, will present to us 10A through 10N.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. I will be presenting a brief overview, and I want to stress the word brief here, of the local policy recommendations included in update 112 local. This being a non-legislative year, it was some minor changes. Looking at the first one in BJA local, there was just simply some reformatting changes, as they said, to make the policy more accessible with people with disabilities. CCG local was actually just deleted, and it was moved to CCGA. This was to align with the legal policy, as well as provide some districts a local policy of CCGB, which is not included in our local policy because it has unique provisions on economic development, and we don't address this at this time. In CH local and CV local, there was a cross-reference added to CBB legal at the purchasing method. This allows the board to delegate the superintendent or a designee the authority to determine the method of purchasing in accordance with CH legal and CBB legal as appropriate. Additionally, at this level of CH local, competitive bidding and competitive sealed proposal, there was a recommendation for adjustment to acknowledge that any rejection of bids or proposals will be in accordance with state or federal law. CQ local added language regarding the electronically signed documents. We already do some of that as well. This allowed to make sure that we were in alignment with the Department of Information Resources, as well as permitted the practice to be outlined in our current policy. DCB local has been reorganized to better clarify the certification requirements for SBEC versus the district. It does also distinguish that when the district requires certification, only full-time professionals can actually be entitled to a term contract. At DH local, this was actually moved from DIA local. This language regards disciplining an employee for making false claims of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, or for refusing to participate in an investigation. Since DH local addresses the broader topic of educator misconduct, this change makes it clear that the district may discipline employees not only for these criteria, but also for other things as well. DIA local simply added the word sex to the statement of non-discrimination and discrimination. This allows that to be covered, as they called it, throughout the consistency throughout the policy manual for those protected categories. FMA local says that now revisions clarify that the district does have complete control over any district and campus publications. That being campus deals with the principal having that discretion. At FNG local and GF local, the only thing that was changed there, and if you remember, FNG local is about student and parent complaints. GF is for public. What this did was add a 90-day timeline from the grievance when it was filed for the board to hear it. This deals with the ejection or the refusal of entry into certain events. You remember a couple years ago, the last legislative session, last 2 years ago, the 5th, they gave a new policy that says that administrators, law enforcement could eject someone for certain misconduct, inappropriate misconduct, at sporting events, at school, or whatever. This allows right here during these policies that once that appeal is filed, then if it's not resolved prior to getting to the board at a level 3, then it has to be heard within 90-day time limit. Also under GK local, it was just new language regarding the right to appeal this ejection and the notification thereof. GKB local has added new language that says the new circumstances in which a district may reject advertising. It also talks about the recognition of sponsorships and donations and provisions. And there you go. Everything
Thank you,
everybody been
Mr.
waiting
Gear.
for. Any questions? I'll be glad to entertain those.
Thank you for that summary. Any questions from the board? And I hear none, so at this time, there'll be no further action. Ms. Tier, would you place these on the consent agenda for adoption at the March 4th meeting, please? Moving right along, then, item 11, consideration and possible approval of the appointment of the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Mr. Rick Gear.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. I think as Mr. Jameson came up with Huckabee just a little while ago and talked about the new construction as well as the storm shelter. In 2015, the International Building Code was changed to mandate that a local emergency planning committee must be developed to look at certain parameters, such things as emergency response plan, operational requirements, and maintenance requirements for any new construction, especially since they have a storm shelter. I think Mr. Jameson mentioned to you earlier that we've already preliminarily met, set up the committee, the members of that, which we're proposing that to you tonight. Once you approve that committee, it will be under BDB Local, which defines this committee's role as fact-finding, deliberative, and advisory, but it's not administrative. And once the committee, the committee will report their findings to the board throughout this next spring and tell you of our findings. Once our mission is accomplished, then it will be dissolved upon completion of that assigned task. One of the things, as I said, that we will be looking at is with this storm shelter, the operation of it, the maintenance of it, as well as the new construction and designing a new emergency operations plan. So before you, I think in your packet, we have the members of the committee that we're recommending to be a part of this committee. It will be a subcommittee of our Safety and Security Committee. And so I've said committee a whole lot of times now, but it is a subcommittee of that. And so the recommendation is there before you for these members. I will be the committee chair that'll be overseeing that with Mr. Jameson and Huckabee. Any questions about the LEPC?
So you've heard Mr. Gear's presentation. Dr. Terry, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, sir. I think this is a good group here and propose that you adopt this list as the local emergency planning committee to help us design the new structures coming into our elementary schools.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the board? And I hear none. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion the board approve the appointment of the LEPC.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rhea. I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 12, consideration and possible approval of furniture purchase from Lone Star Furnishings. Ms. Judith Weber, Chief of Student Services, will present this. You have it in your packet also.
Mr. Ferris and School Board, you know, we're really coming very close to finishing the Ray and Smith project. And we're going to equip 18 additional classrooms, the Flex Learning Labs, Innovative Learning Hub, along with furnishings for a new teacher center and work area and office space. And in keeping with Forney's model design and vision for the hub learning spaces, the furniture cost for these two projects will be $351,557 per campus. You can see with the addition and the hub, I drew in red the little current space that we have, and you can see how much more space we're actually adding, and you add a second story to this. And so the $351,000 equips quite a large space. And these spaces include some pretty innovative learning hub furniture, such as movable shelving that also acts as our bookshelves, and some nice flexible soft seating for students, plus mobile furniture so the building can be used in multiple configurations. So we're very excited to get this project finished, to get the furniture ordered, and really see how beautiful it will be when this is finished. In addition, with these K4 expansions, Kip showed you a while ago some of the finished renderings, but you can see how it looks as an empty space and how we must equip the new K4 library hubs with furniture such as makerspace areas, which are in line with our STEM program, starting even with our youngest students. And then in addition of Criswell, we're adding 4 spaces to Criswell that currently have no furniture in them. So we'll need to add some kinder, some second, and some older elementary grade furniture in those spaces. And then finally, in with this furniture, we're adding classrooms for growth. We're adding some FTEs in our high school campuses, and they're actually expanding into classrooms that do not have any furniture at all, or were used as more storage locations. And so we're going to outfit at least 8 classrooms in our high schools, and potentially more, plus some other classrooms in the district that are for growth that do not currently have furniture. And board policy does require board action for purchases over $100,000, and so I'm going to have John Chase explain a little more about the finance side of the furniture purchase.
So the district, on an annual basis, we allocate a portion of our general fund to purchase furniture for classroom additions and things of that nature. And so we currently have about $300,000 of unappropriated funds for this purpose in our general fund. The remaining amount for this purchase will be coming out of the construction budget. We allowed about $400,000, $200,000 each campus under the Ray and Smith renovation, and as well as we're allotting a little over $100,000 each at each one of the elementary school expansions. And so that, coupled with the fact that there's some allowances in the contracts as they currently exist with the Ray and Smith expansion that were not spent according to Gallagher, so we'll be getting that back, and that would be available for equipment purchases as well. So all told, besides the $300,000 that we have coming out of the general fund, the remaining portion of this expenditure will be coming out of the construction budget.
Thank you very much. Board, you've heard from Ms. Weber, you've heard from Mr. Chase. Do you have any further questions?
Just a quick confirmation, sir. The price of the $351 for the benefit of the public, that includes shipping, assembly, and setup?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, one other thing I might point out is the expansions at Ray and Smith, we did not add any cabinetry or storage space intentionally to really maximize the classroom space itself. And so some of this furniture is also going to be storage and movable bookshelves, those types of things for a classroom. So it also replaces those costs of normal construction.
Any further questions? Thank you very much. You've heard the presentation of Dr. Terry's recommendation. Do I have a motion, please, on item 12?
Mr. Ferris, I make a motion to approve the purchase from Lone Star Furnishings as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 13, considered and possible approval of an order calling to a school board election for positions 5, 6, and 7 from May 4th, 2019. Dr. Terry, I turn it over to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. I would recommend that we approve tonight the order to call the election for positions 5, 6, and 7 on the May 4th, 2019, if an election is necessary. So I would make that recommendation to the board at this time.
Thank you very much. You've heard the recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Andrews, have a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I hear none. Moving on to item 14, consideration and possible approval of a contract with Kaufman County for election services for the May 4th school board election. Dr. Terry, I'll turn it over to you at the time.
Yes, sir. We've had good luck with Kaufman County in the past and would recommend that we retain their services again if an election is required.
Thank you, Dr. Terry. Do I have a motion from the board?
So moved.
Mr. Carroll, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I hear none. Item 15, consider and possible approval for the use of electronic voting systems for both early voting and election day voting. Dr. Terry?
Mr. Fair, so that we don't have any controversy over CHADs, we would recommend that we continue with the electronic voting system for early and current day voting.
That was Chad
Not
Johnson?
Chad Johnson's,
Yeah.
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So well, I would recommend that we approve electronic voting again.
You've heard the recommendation by Dr. Terry. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Don't want to confuse the Chad over here, so we'll use Mr. Carroll. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Items 16, 17, and 18 and 19 have already been taken care of earlier in the meeting tonight. Any other matters the board needs to address, Dr. Terry?
I would just point out one thing. Tomorrow, we do have our career focus night at, is that Forney High School? Forney High School, and so I'd love to see everyone out. Our 8th graders have an opportunity to engage with our community and other careers. And also wanted to point out under announcements, item F, we did have to make a change to the Thursday, it will now be Tuesday, May 28th board meeting, and that will be at our regular 6 o'clock time. So that is item F under announcements. Tuesday, May 28th is one adjustment.
So you do see all the other announcements there. Monday, the 18th is holiday for the school. Monday, March 4th is a regular board meeting. Monday, the 11th through Friday, the 15th is spring break. Monday, April 1st will be our regular board meeting. Monday, May 6th is a regular board meeting. And then, as he said, the Tuesday, May 28th will be a regular board meeting. It's technically our June meeting. We're just backing it up a week to the Tuesday, the 28th. So if you'll make sure your calendars are good for that. If you have a conflict, let us know. Anything else before us, Dr. Terry?
No, sir.
It is now 8:51, and I will announce this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for attendance tonight.